Hi, my name's Zawad Hassan, and I like to build plans, roadmaps around careers, professionalism, and sometimes maybe artworks. This is the first video on this channel, so I'd like to welcome you to Sam Sable. So, to set the foundations of this channel, I would like to establish that the foundation for modern society was set long ago in the Roman empires. So to honor that, in this first video, I would like to talk about the Roman Empire, the philosophy from the Roman Empire, and we will be reviewing a book about the Roman Empire, and we will look at how philosophies and ideas from the Roman Empire connect to our modern day society. If that sounds interesting, let's go. Alright, so since we're back from the intro, this is the book that we'll be reviewing. It's called The Scourge of Rome, written by Douglas Jackson. But before that, I would like to establish an aim for my channel. So, my primary goal with this channel is every week I'm going to set myself an agenda and a topic to be covered, and throughout the week I might post 3 to 2 videos relating to that topic. This week I would like to keep things a bit lighthearted for myself and post this video only and see how it goes and test the waters a bit on YouTube. So to structure my videos from week to week, for next week I'm planning on a few videos on supply chain, a few videos on more history and philosophy. So the progression of these videos that I would like to keep would be me explaining a little bit about the topic and then moving on to review a book on the topic. And if we are making a third video on any topic in any week, I would like it to be a roadmap relating to a career into that field. So, without further ado, let's get back to our book review, which is The Scourge of Rome by Douglas Jackson. So, this book is mainly related to the historical fiction genre of books. So, by historical fiction, it would mean like few elements of the books are fictional and few elements of the book relate to real life events. So Douglas Jackson, in his book The Scourge of Rome, which is the 6th volume of his Hero of Rome series, he has touched upon numerous real life events that have occurred during the Roman periods. And he has also touched upon philosophies during the Roman era. primarily what he has aimed to put forward in the book is the life of a centurion. And a centurion in the Roman military ranks is the highest ranked soldier. So, in the book, our hero, Gaius Valerius Varens, is a fictional character or a fictional soldier of the highest rank, and Douglas Jackson takes us through his life and his time during the army and away from the army. So, for a pretext on the book about the Romans were essentially the predecessors or an evolved race or civilization that came from the Etruscans, Sicilians, and Italians of the 4th century. And the first Roman Republic was established around 509 BCE. So in the book, Douglas Jackson literally gives us an introspect into the Roman Republican government system, the military system, and the Senate system. And all of these systems, accustomed with their philosophies, briefly provide us the building stones of the modern Roman Republic and also the modern society. So if we were to go into an in-depth review of the book that we're discussing today, Douglas Jackson, the writer, he has established a few real-life events, 3 of which I'll mention would be the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, the military reforms in Rome, assassins, and the political maneuvering in the Roman system. So if we're talking about the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, the battle actually started when a group of 3 Roman legions led by a general named Publius was ambushed by a Germanic tribe led by someone named Arminius, who was a Roman ally. Now, due to the harsh terrains and harsh weather conditions in the battlefield, the Romans suffered a loss in this battle. And that's where we get to learn the Roman philosophy of stoicism, the Roman philosophies of not letting failures affect your emotions. Because nowadays what we find is people tend to take failures and losses personally. But all failures and losses is just a way of life. If you failed in something, if you've not achieved something, you're either not meant to achieve it at that time, or it's God signaling to you that you need to work harder to achieve that. Or maybe in the process you've learned something that was more beneficial. Or maybe something better is waiting for you. But then again, we let failures, not being able to achieve something, get into our heads and mess with our emotions. That's where the first important Roman philosophy that relates to modern day society comes into play: stoicism. And one of the famous Roman Stoics, a general and a philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, has a famous quote that I'll share later into the video. So Marcus Aurelius was a great general for the Romans, and under his rule, the Romans actually developed multiple military reforms. And that's where we get into the book again, where Douglas Jackson actually mentioned the Romans developing from the phalanx system that was provided, or the Romans adapted from the Greeks. And later, the Romans switched to the manipolar cohort system. And these 2 systems are 2 very different military reforms. So, more in-depth discussion on the phalanx and the military reforms. Now I think we can make a different video on it. And the third real life event that Douglas Jackson speaks about in the almost fictional book with mostly fictional characters is the Roman Senate system. So the Roman Senate system actually had multiple tiers of ruling parties. Initially, there were two ruling parties in the Roman landscape. They were called the Patricians and the Plebeains. So during the early Roman Republican era, the plebeians were heavily suppressed by the patricians. So the plebeians were allowed to live as civilians, but they had to go through tests, go through loopholes, go through hardships, and sometimes even slavery to please the patricians, who were in higher elite level powers. So coming back to the Roman philosophies that relate to modern day society, we come to a philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, as I previously mentioned. So besides being a general, Marcus Aurelius put forward multiple codes relating to stoicism, one of which is, so what Marcus Aurelius actually means in its code, in his Stoic philosophy, is that we as human beings, as individuals, only have control over our reactions, over certain actions done to us or done around us. So we don't have any control over any externalities and anything that's outside of our own mind. So we can decide how we react to situations, but situations themselves, they are typically outside our control. That's where our destiny comes into play. That's where our faith in God comes into play. That's where religion comes into play. That's where the thought about just putting in the effort and not worrying about what the result will be, thoughts like that come into play. So the second Roman philosophy that translated to modern society that I would like to talk about was Epicurianism. So Epicurianism was a philosophical term or a school of philosophy that was founded by Epicurus, who was a Greek philosopher who came before Marcus Aurelius. So what Epicurus and his philosophy meant. So in his philosophy, Epicurus kind of establishes the idea that as human beings and individuals, we tend to be more ignorant in terms of our desires, in terms of our wants. And the more we get, the more we achieve, and the more used to we get to a certain lifestyle, the more we want. For example, you might not have a decent car today, but that you want a decent car in the future. Say in 4 years' time, you have a lifestyle that includes a private vehicle. You have, say, a Toyota, or you might be driving a bike. You'd still have a desire. You'd look around you and you'd see people driving all sorts of like Ferraris, Jaguars, and all that. And you'd still have the desire. You'd be like, okay, I need a Jaguar now. So what Epicurus' philosophy tells us is not to worry about the things that we don't have yet. And that also relates to Stoicism in so many levels. Stoicism tells us not to worry or not to try and control things outside of our own reactions. Whereas Epicurus and his philosophy tell us not to worry about things, not to worry about a lifestyle that we don't currently have. That's where the term faith also comes in. That's where the term what's meant for you will find you comes in. And the third philosophical term that I will like to recommend in this video, and the one that I would end with, would be Neoplatonism. So this is a school of philosophy that was put forward by a student of Plato, Plotinus, from the Greek period, translating into the Roman period. So what Plotinus in his philosophy referred to is that to never stop working on yourself. And here's a quote from Plotinus himself. So in his philosophy, Plotinus basically asks us, or puts forward the idea that one should never settle for mediocrity. One should never settle for comfort. We should always be developing ourselves. And this is one thing that I would like to progress into when I'm moving forward in my channel through multiple podcasts or to multiple roadmaps that we're setting up, is that how can you move forward within specific positions or companies or careers. One thing that I'd like to do is that I'd like to know what my audience's interests are. Right now we're at 0 subs, so right now I don't know you, you don't know me, but in the future, after a couple of videos, we might start getting accustomed to the system, and then you might, well, you'll get my ideas, and I'd get to know what my audience wants. So I'd like you to suggest, what careers do you want to get into? You know, maybe I can make a video on it and share a roadmap. For example, if you want to go into data analytics, you know, data analytics basically has 3 components to it, which would be learning SQL, learning Python, and learning Tableau. So if you can know how to visualize data, you're halfway through the data analytics learning process. So yeah, I can construct videos about roadmaps to different careers and how you can progress into those careers. And then we can see if they do really benefit you, or could you do something else. And that being said, with that, I would like to end my first introductory video in this channel, and hopefully the next videos on this topic would be around architecture from the Roman period that translated into modern society. We can talk about the government systems, we can talk about the legal systems that the Romans set up, and what kind of legal systems from the Roman period still translate to modern society today. All those. But then again, I am interested in discussing different topics from history. For example, I would like to talk about Hassan Sabah, who established the first Assassins Guild in modern-day Baghdad. So topics like these. So let me know what kind of topics would you want me to discuss. For next week, we are going to discuss about supply chain management, how supply chain originated, who was the founder of supply chain management, and we're going to discuss roadmaps and hopefully review some books on supply chain. Till then, keep building your life, keep focusing on your career, and I'll see you in the next video.